How do languages borrow words? It seems like a really obvious question, right? Just take the foreign word, you copy it, and you're good to go. But there are actually a lot of factors to consider. So, to demonstrate this, I've come up with a little test which will show you how languages borrow words. This is a French word that is used to describe a street that sells many different types of goods. I've given you the spelling, the pronunciation, and the meaning of the word. So, how would you borrow this into English? Well, how about copying the sounds of the word so that the word is pronounced exactly the same in English as in French? The French marché au puce would therefore be spelled as marché au pouce in order to fit relatively well with English spelling rules. However, the French R and U are lost because English simply doesn't have a way of representing these sounds, but also, not to mention, this spelling looks absolutely ridiculous. Alright, so what if we just said, screw the pronunciation, let's just copy the spelling instead, so that we know exactly where the word came from? Well, people might have difficulty interpreting marché aux puces, and might pronounce it more of, marché aux puces instead, which now sounds completely different from the original pronunciation, and now complete hassle for people to spell because the spelling isn't exactly conventional. Turns out, whichever method your language uses tells you a lot about the language. For example, languages with consistent spelling, think of Spanish or Turkish or Japanese, are more likely to mirror the spelling of the word to its pronunciation, known as phonetic borrowing, because these languages depend highly on the spelling of the word for its pronunciation. Sure, you might not replicate it 100%, but it's close enough. Meanwhile, languages like English or French, which do not rely on the spelling of the word for its pronunciation, instead tend to borrow the spelling of the word so that the loanword stays as close as possible to the original word, known as orthographic borrowing. However, my favorite borrowing has to be calque, which is when a foreign word is translated directly based on their meaning. What does that mean? Going back to our previous example, I conveniently left out the meaning of the words. Marché aux puces, directly translated from French, is markets to fleas, or rather, a flea market, which is exactly where the term came from originally. This shows how words can be translated via their meaning. And a loanword doesn't just have to use one borrowing method. Take the Chinese word for ice cream, which became an internet sensation, 冰淇淋. Bing is a direct translation of ice, while qilin is much more of a phonetic interpretation of cream. So, I hope this video has taught you a thing or two about how languages borrow words in general.